γιατί είναι cumulus.
Κοίτα εκεί πως είναι τα cumulus.
Δεν είναι... τα nimbus προκαλούν βροχή, αυτά είναι cumulus. Είναι σαν αφρός, σαν βαμβάκι.
Σαν ψάρι.
Φρούτο.
Απαγορευμένης. Αφρός. Βίντεο βγάζεις.
Ναι.
Α, και τρέμει.
Τι?
Και τρέμεις τώρα.
Since the beginning of the year, I hadn't read much. I kept a slow and steady pace, reading 1 or 2 books a month, which is quite unusual, really. And right before the summer, I read only like half a book. And it wasn't because I didn't like it, I really did. I just couldn't find the time and energy to devote to such a masterpiece. Usually during the summer, my partner and I visit a small quiet village in Greece where I take 4 books with me. And I usually read 3 of these 4. So this year I decided to take 3 books with me. But since I had like an unfinished one, it was like 3.5. But as I was cleaning up the house, doing chores and packing up, I got carried away and I started an audiobook. So that left me with 4.5 books, and long story short, I read 4.5 novels, 1 non-fiction book, and a short story in 1 month. All these books were so different, you know, and they were from different genres, so just bear with me, guys. The half-finished book was the Handmaid's Tale by the amazing Margaret Atwood. Better. Okay, so the half-read book was Handmaid's Tale by the amazing Margaret Atwood, which I adored. I got to finish this within the first couple of days in the village. Such an impactful novel. You can draw so many parallels to the world we live in today, which is so ironic considering it's dystopian. The book is dystopian. And in case you've been living under a rock and you've never heard of this book or this TV series for that matter, here's like the gist of it. The story takes place in a world where religion has taken over, simply put. And women are forced to have babies with specific men, to put it nicely. They have to dress in a specific way. Their garment is color-coded depending on their role in society. They're not allowed to read and write, which is terrible, you know. Like, it's just, everything is controlled, and they're even stripped of their names. And they've been given the name of the person they're meant to have the baby of. Like, of Glenn, of Warren, and of Fred. It's a very impactful story, and I highly recommend it. The second book I finished was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So many people recommended this book to me, and now I know never to listen to anybody. I was super excited to read this, and I had seen even on social media like all the good reviews, and I wanted to see what the fuss was all about. It was ineffectual. It's a simple story about the cycle of abuse. And I want to make this clear right now that I'm not criticizing the subject matter rather than the execution of the story or how it made me feel. This story is inspired by the author's personal experience growing up in an abusive household. Not exactly. Her father was abusive towards her mother, but they got divorced. So everything written in the story is quite emotional and personal to the author. But in the end, the story was wrapped up in a pink ribbon and everything was so nice and pretty and perfect. And I suppose that's because the story was supposed to be a romantic one? I don't know. If it was a psychological thriller, I think it would have had a much greater impact, at least on me. I suppose other people found it like so intense. I don't know. I saw many reviews like that people said it made them cry. It didn't make me cry, and I cry very easily when I read books, and even on movies I cry a lot, and this book didn't make me cry. I'm sorry. The story overall was okay, and I don't think it deserves all the hype. I believe that, well, if you choose to read it, it's your choice. I mean, like, I don't necessarily recommend it to people like me, but it's got so many good reviews, so I suppose like people should read it. I don't know. I wouldn't place it in a must-read list, you know what I mean. But if you do choose to read it, just keep in mind that this is not an accurate depiction of an abusive home, because every situation is different. This is just a story about Colleen Hoover's mother. Moving on to the next book. It's a Greek book called Το μυστικό του πλανήτη 175 Vita, which translates to The Secret of Planet 175b. This one was totally different than the previous ones. It's sci-fi. It takes place about 80 years from now in a very developed Greece that has the like state-of-the-art machinery and is technologically so advanced that the government has decided to send 9 people to space on a mission, to build the foundation for civilization. Now, this is a world where the political system has changed. People work less hours and they're paid the same as they are today, supposedly, but they're given more, and that's a way to kind of control them. It's all a perfectly built scheme. So anyway, these 9 people who embarked on this mission, as well as the rest of society, there's something they don't know about the mission, and that's that the reason they're going to this planet is totally different than what they've been told. And I'm not gonna say anymore because I don't want to spoil the experience of reading it. And if you speak Greek, I totally recommend this book. So yeah, it was quite want to read, and it really made me want to read more sci-fi books. And I can't believe that I've missed so much. So those books I read at the village. And right before we came back to Athens, my sister and I decided to take a trip and visit Albania. The trip didn't go as planned, but that's a story for another day. My point is, we spent so many hours traveling that I had to find a big, huge book to busy myself with. Since I didn't have any book with me, I found an audiobook about 11 hours long, which was exactly what I needed. Two 203, 204. Oh my god. 205. We haven't even turned on the lights. How do we turn on the lights? Where the Crawdads Sing was such a beautiful and unexpected story of a girl named Kia. We follow her through her entire life, from the abandonment when she was a child to her adolescence, all through her grown-up life until her death. She's been abandoned, laughed at, criticized. People were prejudiced against her. She had to find ways to feed herself and get money to buy stuff. She learned how to read and write by herself. She learned how to count. She found love and then lost it. She was misjudged and misused, and she was even and only a handful of people helped her when she was a kid. She survived. She started writing and drawing, and she published books. She became successful. She made money, and then she was accused of murder. I was listening to the audiobook with such intensity, and during the trial I was holding my breath. Such a beautiful and sad book. After that, I decided to hop on a different journey and go to some classic. Animal Farm by George Orwell was so unique. When I listened to the first chapter, among my initial thoughts were oh my god, this is so political. What was I expecting of Orwell? Anyway, this book of only 150 pages or so, about 3 hours or something of audiobook, was exactly what I needed. It was quite short, less sad, and quite the opposite of most of the books I mentioned. Not very opposite to The Handmaid's Tale, but also not quite similar. You have to read them for yourselves. Animal Farm is a story about a farm. Surprise, surprise. One day the animals realize that they don't need humans to run the farm, and they could do a much better job by themselves, considering that. So they fight back, get rid of the humans, and decide to leave inequality among one another, spread the message to other farms, and they also learned how to read and write, and they created these commandments to live by. That was very optimistic and utopic, view, maybe, because there was something getting in the way of this harmonious living among animals. And that was that some animals, some of the smarter ones, were quite greedy, and they were manipulative, and they kept subtly changing the commandments according to their interests. So the farm, after a while, instead of being run by humans, it was now being run by pigs, especially one specific pig who gave the commands and harvested the good. The quote that stayed with me after this all was, "Animals are equal, but some animals are more equal." And oh boy, that resonated with me. The book was so good that many times I would just stop everything I was doing just to listen to it. And the point of audiobooks is to be able to do other stuff at the same time, like chores. And this book just got my attention, whenever I was like folding clothes or doing the dishes, I had to just stop and give this audiobook my full undivided attention. It's a well-crafted and solid story about how the oppressed become the oppressor. Coming back from Albania, I started preparing for my final year of PhD, so I decided to go for nonfiction, and that's how I chose this book. I didn't do the thing today. On letting go of productivity guilt. I suppose the title says it all. This is a self-help book that's not like most self-help as we know it. The idea behind Door's book is to be able to give yourself the space to flourish and thrive. Give yourself the space to work hard and rest hard and play hard if that's something you want. Or you can do nothing at all and listen to your body, stay up all night if that's something you need, or get up really early every morning if that suits you. The thing is to let go of what other people think of productivity and create your own personalized system. If that's a routine or not, it's up to you. You can have a vegetable soup and cookies. You get the metaphor. I really needed this book right now because I was getting super anxious for my final year of PhD, and now I'm a little less anxious and a bit more excited. I'm excited. Let's do this. I decided to finish the summer with a good old Czech Palahniuk. A huge thank you to this person who suggested the story a few months ago. It's a shame I didn't get to it earlier, but I eventually did, and I'm so glad I did. Palahniuk is such an impactful writer. I've previously made a review on Gods, the first story I've read by this author, and although that story was horrifying and haunting, and I expected romance to be somewhat in the same, field of emotions, it wasn't. Romance begins with a guy who's just had twin girls, and he's so happy at this point in his life, but he's also so worried that something is gonna go bad and it's gonna ruin his life. So we get an entire flashback to his previous relationship, what went wrong. I'm not gonna spoil anything because it's like a short story, like anything I say can spoil the story. So yeah, his previous relationship ended, spoiler free, and then he met his current wife, whom he's so in love with, but also he's in denial, and he refuses to see her for what she really is. I'm really choosing my words very carefully so I don't spoil anything. So I won't say more. It's a very sad story. Although I listened to the author, reading it in front of a live audience, and many people laughed. I don't know why they laughed. I mean, I didn't find those parts funny. I just found them very sad. It's not a disturbing story like Gods. It's just super sad. I can't explain it better than that. It's a sad story. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments below what books you read this August. I'll see you next week. Bye now.